Good evening. On yesterday's show, we told you about a standoff. Well, a standoff of sorts going on at the Venezuelan embassy here in Washington, D.C. You got protesters from organizations like Code Pink. They're still inside the embassy, where they have been for several days, and they're joining diplomats loyal to the government of Nicolas Maduro. They have the doors chained from the inside, they say. They say that the Trump administration is planning to raid the embassy, kick everyone out, and replace the diplomats with those loyal to Juan Guaido, recognized as president of Venezuela by the U.S. and the Organization of American States, among others. Well, so far, no raid. Now, tonight, we will hear from both sides on not only the embassy issue, but the whole crisis in Venezuela. And as we will be joined by actress, singer, activist Maria Conchita Alonso. Her family fled to Venezuela from Cuba when she was just 5 years old. She has very strong opinions. And we'll have a former U.S. diplomat and Senate Foreign Policy Advisor also weigh in. So we have two sides, honest debate. Stay here. I'm Steve Malzberg, and this is the news with Rick Sanchez, where it is time to do news again. All right, now, for more on this, we're joined by a good friend of mine, actress, singer, and activist Maria Conchita Alonso, who I mentioned earlier. Her family fled from Cuba when she was very young to Venezuela. She won a lot of beauty contests representing that country to the world. Maria, welcome, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks to you, Steve. Thank you for.
All right. So let me ask you how you
educating people.
Well, let me ask you first of all how you feel about the Code Pink and the others occupying the Venezuelan embassy here in D.C. and should the Trump administration move in?
They should have moved in the same day that they invaded Venezuela, because as people know, and they should know, when each embassy. It's like if you are entering their country. So they enter Venezuela, and they are in there sleeping, having meetings, eating, cooking. Not only that, they have access to computers, to information that should be closed information, private information. They're having, they're doing what they say, hands off Venezuela, because Code Pink is a very extreme leftist, a communist group, and they're doing what they say the United States don't do. So I think that, if you see a do not enter sign in a building, in anywhere, you should not enter, because then you should go to jail. So I really don't know how they haven't been taken out yet and taken to jail, because what they're doing is an illegal thing. They've invaded Venezuela by doing this.
Let me ask you, let's move on to, I know you have concerns about humanitarian help from the Red Cross getting into Venezuela. I know you don't think that that's actually happening. Talk about it.
Just recently, through the Red Cross of Venezuela, some humanitarian help came in. What has happened with that? The president of the Red Cross in Venezuela is in bed with the regime. We call them the Reds, like the movie, remember? He's very red, and they're doing this as a propaganda, because they're the greatest doing propaganda. And, so the world says, look, they're helping, they're bringing humanitarian help, but they're not. They have kept that. Maybe they did a little bit here and there, very little, whatever they want to, but they're selling them on the streets. The humanitarian help from the Red Cross in Venezuela is not helping to save lives. They're making a profit out of it.
What about the people? Let's talk more about the people. They're in a terrible situation there. You heard Elliot Abrams speaking today, talking about, imagine a country where eggs are not a luxury, where clean water is great, no blackouts, and that, so what do the people of Venezuela, as far as you know, in your opinion and what you've heard, what do they want?
We want right away a military intervention. Right away, we are begging the United States, whomever wants to join, Israel, Canada, Brazil, Colombia, we are begging for a military help, okay? And it's just, this can't go on anymore.
Are you talking about a military intervention into Venezuela?
Yes, I am. Yes, not an invasion, an intervention. We need that to happen, because it's not only Nicolás Maduro who's making people die, who doesn't allow people to get to medicine and to get food, because yes, you will find everything there, but there's no money to buy it from the majority of Venezuelans. You know that the minimum salary is less than $4 a month. You go buy lemons, like a bag of lemons, it's double that. So you can't even buy lemons. So yes, we're begging for United States to help us get out of this mess, because it's not only Nicolás Maduro. Cuba is there, has been there for more than 20 years. Cuba has been receiving free oil from Venezuela, and then they sell it. What happens is that you maintain the Cuban regime, because they're helping Cuba by giving them the oil.
Right, let me ask you. Let me ask you, Maria, because we're running short on time. I know you're wearing a T-shirt, and you want to talk briefly about what that says and what it means.
This is a challenge that we're asking people to do by doing this challenge on Instagram. My Instagram is MariaConchita_A. You will help the babies of Venezuela. So you got to do 30 push-ups, and you will help with milk for $1 a day. And you can have more information in my Instagram. But we are saying Russia is next door. Russia is in Venezuela. Russia, Iran has been there since Chavez. Hezbollah has been there since Chavez. Cuba, all these people, and China, obviously. Okay. All this country has to get out of Venezuela for us to be able to change what's been going on there for more than 20 years.
We will talk again tomorrow. I thank you very much, Maria Conchita Alonso. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, now we're joined by Jim Jatras. He's a former U.S. diplomat, as well as serving in the U.S. Senate as a senior foreign policy advisor. And he joins us now to break down the geopolitical and legal issues that we're facing here and responding to what Maria had to say. I mean, you heard her interview. What sticks out at you, and how would you like to respond?
Well, what immediately struck me is, and I respect very much everything that she was saying, is that she is no doubt providing the point of view of many Venezuelans. There's no question about that. What I object to, coming from an American perspective, is this idea that we tend to sort of Bolshevize this notion of the people of Venezuela want this, the people of Ukraine want that, the people of Syria want that, as though they weren't divided. That's why there's a conflict going on. And why is it our job as Americans to come in here and sort out who's who? You and I were back in 2016. We're very strong Trump supporters, and we were promised an America first foreign policy, going around overthrowing other governments in other countries because people have their internal disputes, and maybe there's some bad things going on, doesn't serve our country's interests, and it doesn't end up serving those countries' interests. You know, we hear over and over again, just get rid of the Hitler of the month, get rid of Maduro, get rid of Milosevic, get rid of Bashar al-Assad, get rid of Gaddafi. Yeah, exactly. And what do we end up with is a broken country.
Well, let me ask you, and I didn't have a chance to ask her this, but you're probably more equipped to handle this. So she mentioned other countries that she says are there, and Hezbollah and Iran and Russia. Has there not been a cozying up? I mean, to me, as a layman, as an observer, it seems like all this started on our part, and the rhetoric and the actions and whatever, when it seems that Venezuela was cozying up to maybe Russia and China, and we saw that, we being the United States. Is there any truth to that?
I think there's certainly an element of it in there that it has become that certainly other countries are lining up against another regime change operation. And one thing I noticed listening to Mr. Abrams at Atlantic Council today, the international community, the United States, about 50 other countries, that's less than a third of the countries in the world support Guaido against Maduro. I think other countries don't like the idea that we feel it's within our right to go around overthrowing other governments. And yes, now the Russians and the Chinese are in there, but we're in Syria, we're in Ukraine, we're all over the Far East. So if we have beefs with those other powers, it seems to me that's where you get back and say, okay, what are the rules out of the road? You stay out of our neighborhood, we stay out of yours.
Well, you heard her say that she wants, and that the Venezuelan people that she talks to want a military intervention by the United States and any other countries that would be willing to join, I guess, a coalition of sorts. Where are we headed? What is going to happen here?
Well, first off, Steve, I was shocked when I heard that. She said a military intervention, but not an invasion. I don't know how anybody appeals to a big foreign power to come into your own country and, let's be honest, kill some of your countrymen. How else do you militarily intervene somewhere except you kill people and break things? I wouldn't, no matter how much I don't like Antifa or other people in this country, other Americans sometimes and what they do,
right.
I wouldn't want the Russians or the Chinese or somebody come and settle our hash for us. This is our business. Yeah. So there's that. I found that rather shocking. But I am afraid that the administration and again, I'm looking at Mr. Abrams as the point man here, Mr. Iraq disaster, as wanting to overthrow this government, whatever it takes. I think we destroy the country's economy and then shed crocodile tears over people suffering. We're going to move in with humanitarian aid, but maybe stage an incident at the border. We've got a lot of tricks above our sleeves.
Right. Good talking.